Meme. Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're talking about Meme Ento. That's right, this deck. First and foremost, let's get this over with. This deck's not good. Just gonna tell you that right now. There's a reason I called it Meme, and there's a reason it's going to be the Meme deck. But second of all, we'll talk about what people think this deck is, or how good people think this deck is in a second. But I do want to talk about overall the play style of this deck real quick. It is basically spin your reels and end on a pretty mediocre board, similar to like Pendulum or like, I would say Hero, but Hero actually does end on like a decent board. So it's like old Hero, like prior to DPE Hero, you know? That kind of idea where you're like, yeah, it kind of does stuff, it can do some things and has a good end board, but isn't really that worthwhile. But it still has like this really long combo that goes through a wide variety of things. The main gimmick is that you pop cards to generate advantage. You know, like Unchained, but bad. That's it. It's just Unchained, but bad. If you want to play a good deck, go play Unchained. It's fun, it's enjoyable, and it's just as expensive, which is not. It's not. It's super cheap. So both of those decks are a better option, or that deck, I should say, is a better option if you want to play it. So I would highly suggest that. And they play Unchained plays significantly less bricks, and even drawing the bricks isn't a hard brick or anything like that. So let's quickly go through the card by card and the analysis. Starting off with the combo starters, we have Ange-Witch, which searches out Tatsu. Tatsu special summons itself if you control only Memento monsters, and then also pops either itself or whatever other card you choose in order to dump cards to the graveyard. The cards you're sending being Gactic, Goblin, and Mace. And we'll talk about those in a second. And then we have Darkblade, which also special summons the Ange-Witch. So these are all just ways to get into this guy, who dumps these guys, which gets enough cards into the grave for the rest of the plays. That's basically it. Ange-Witch also has an ability to special summon a level 2 or lower Memento by destroying a Memento you control. So there's that. And that's more or less all of the like combo starters. That's all you need to know about them. Then we have Gactic. I'm calling it Gactic. You can't tell me otherwise. On normal if it's sent to the graveyard by a Memento effect, it special summons itself, and then on normal or special, it adds a Memento card from your grave to your hand. So this is really useful because you can pop the Tatsu, send these three, this guy will then special summon itself, and then can add back one of your other cards, which is also nice if you send something like a Fusion or a Cranium Burst or something like that you could potentially add back off of the Gactic as well, which is very nice. You could even potentially send something like this and Ange-Witch in order to have the Ange-Witch to like add back this card to then normal summon it if you didn't already have it. So pretty cool, pretty useful. It's also a 2, which is great because that means we can play Elf and actually have a target for it, which is great. So there's that. Then we have Mace and Goblin, both of which have discard effects. During your opponent's main phase, you can discard Mace in order to steal a monster your opponent controls. You discard, target a face-up card, take control of it, pretty nice. And then Goblin protects your Memento monsters. Both of these require a combined creation in order for them to work, for their discard effects. Pretty cool. It's just your opponent can't target Memento monsters with card effects. However, they both have on-field effects as well, where they destroy a Memento in order to do a thing. Goblin sends 2 Memento cards, which is great. It puts things like Cranium Burst into the grave to be revived with the field spell and stuff like that. And Mace allows you to destroy one in order to add any Memento card to your hand. So this is very, very nice. So the general idea is you go Tatsu in order to dump these 2. Gactic special summons itself, and then you can use Gactic to not add Mace. This sounds weird, but you don't add the Mace here because you're going to special summon it off of the Ange-Witch. So there you go. You use the Ange-Witch to get into all of that, and then the Ange-Witch will pop itself, special summoning the Mace. Mace will pop itself in order to grab up the Fusion spell, and then the Fusion spell will get us into Twin Dragon. Now the Fusion spell is basically just a quick play Fusion spell during the main phase, similar to Chimera Fusion, except worse because it only Fusion summons using a Memento monster and is not generic. But then on top of that, it's also just not as useful, just in general, because I don't know. I don't know. I guess it is as useful. It's still pretty good. It's still a quick play fusion, but it's just not like quite as overpowered as Chimera Fusion because you don't have as easy of access to it. If you were able to search this more consistently, yeah, it'd be a lot better. So there's that. But beside the point. You can fusion summon during the main phase, and then if a monster was destroyed this turn, you can actually shuffle cards from your grave into the deck as well, which is really, really cool. So that means you can search out this card, which then allows you to fusion summon into Twin Chimera, or Twin Dragon. Obviously, we're playing 3 of this. Pretty good. We're playing 2 Twin Chimera, which just requires 2 Memento monsters. On Fusion Summon, you destroy a Memento to add 2 Memento cards from your deck to your hand. Everything is from deck to hand. It is always deck or grave to hand. You cannot interact with your hand. It's really frustrating. If this card is Fusion Summoned, if this Fusion Summon card is destroyed, you could Special Summon a level 6 or lower Memento card, or Memento monster from your grave. So this is another way to get this guy onto the field, or to get Goblin onto the field, which might still be in your grave, and then Goblin can send the 2 cards. Very useful. Now, Fusion has a second effect, which is, during the main phase, banish, destroy one of your cards, destroy a monster you control to add a spell trap. This will allow you to add the Memento, and with the Goblin effect, sending things like Cranium Burst, you're able to then get that onto the field. And then we have a combined creation, which just special summons itself by shuffling 5 differently named mementos. And then on top of that, if your opponent activates a card or effect, a card or effect, you can special summon a memento monster from your hand or grave, which is pretty nice. So you can special summon back the Ange-Witch to search out like a mace or a goblin that you put back, which then can be used as a quick effect interaction or protection. So pretty cool. However, it also, it requires the 5 different names, and it's fairly decent overall. The other card that was it. The other card I wanted to talk about is Horned Dragon, which requires 3 or more mementos with different names in your grave. You special summon this guy for free, and then if it's destroyed, you pop one of your memento cards and 2 other face-up cards on the field for free, which is pretty cool. So there's that. It has to leave the field, or it has to be destroyed by card effect for it to get that effect. Notably, it doesn't have to go to the grave, which is cool. So if it were like destroyed and then banished, you'd still be able to activate the effect, which is pretty cool. Then we have the field spell, which its main goal is to basically just put a spell trap that is in the grave during the end phase onto the field. You just put it face down. Pretty cool. It also can special summon guys and protect some of your monsters and stuff like that. Standard field spell. Actually a genuinely standard field spell and not one of the, Rhodas. Then we have Bone Party, which destroys a memento to special summon a memento. That's all it does. And then it also allows you to inflict piercing by banishing it. It's okay. But we're still playing 3 of it. Reason being, you kind of need to. You need as much consistency as you can get because you're playing a whole bunch of dead cards. That's also why we're playing 45 cards instead of 40, because as you can see, you don't want to draw any of these cards. You don't want to draw Creation. You don't even really want to draw Horned Dragon. All of these you want to search, so by playing 45, you're less likely to see them. The rest of these cards are just staples. It's really cool, isn't it? Lies. Now, you could play the Horus engine. The reason I don't really want to do that, or I wouldn't really suggest that, is twofold. One, you don't really need it. It's kind of anti-synergistic because of this card in particular. You can't control face-up monsters besides memento monsters to special summon this, so it kind of is anti-synergistic. But it's also because I feel like hand traps and going second cards are way more important. Things like super polymerization, things like Nibiru, things like Imperm, etc. Because at least for me, I've noticed a lot more people really heavily over-indexing into just ignoring the opponent and being like, cool, if you're not playing hand trap turbo, I win the game by playing this degenerate combo. Things like Infernoble, Galaxy Tomahawk, etc., etc. So because of that, I'm just like, I'd rather just not deal with that. You can still play the horror stuff, it's still good. It's just, for me, I think it's not as worth it. So we're playing a ton of hand traps. We're playing a Valor as a cross-out target mostly. We're playing 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Nibiru, 3 Triple Tactics Talents. This has actually been pretty good. I'm also playing a Pot of Prosperity because I don't really need most of my extra deck, which I'll explain later. We're playing 3 Super Polymerization, crazy. The 2 Called by, the 1 Crossout, and the 3 Imperm, and that is it. As for the other cards, we are playing 1 Fracture Dance, which is absolutely crazy. If you control a Memento, target a card on the field, pop it, then if you control Combined Creation, destroy another one. Now, notably, that second destruction is non-targeted, and you can target any card you control. Now, this is pretty cool because you can actually just, like, remove most of your field for like, an evenly matched that comes down. So you could just be like, cool, I'm just going to destroy my own field, and now I don't have to deal with evenly matched banishing all of my stuff, which could be important if you don't have, like, or if you need Combined Creation in the grave. And then we have Cranium Burst, which says, while you control a Memento monster, your opponent must control the highest attack Memento monster you control. And it says they must attack, which means they're going to deal damage to themselves because this guy is large. And then on top of that, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can decrease the attack of your Combined Creation by 1,000. Attack and defense. And then negate the effect. There you go. However, notably, this effect is really, really bad. First of all, when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, so not in the grave, not in the hand, not in the banished pile, not in the deck, not in the extra deck, not any of that, just in or on the field, okay? Second of all, you have to have Combined Creation. And third of all, it's only once per chain. So it's just bad Apo. Like, you could just make Apollosa. That is an option. That, like, it's realistically an option you could do with this deck. So, you know, there's that. It's not actually all that worth it to make the Apo, but it's here. Anyway, beside the point, this is just bad Apo, and it's very, very funny. Anyway, as for the extra deck, we are playing a bunch of Super Poly targets, Mud Dragon, Garura, Predaplant, Dragostapelia. This never came up. And then we're also playing Guardian Chimera, because you can summon it off of the fusion, so why not? And then 2 of the Twin Dragon, and then a bunch of Link monsters, Link, Karibo, Owl Mirage, just to get cards into the grave, IP Masquerena, Dark, Elf, SP Little Knight, Celine, because we are playing a Spellcaster, so might as well, and then Apo and Axis Code Talker. And that is it for the deck. Let's hop into the replay and show you how this deck performed. Alright, so here we are going first, and I know you see the Maxi in my hand and think, oh, obviously this is just, you Maxied your opponent, and then you won the game. It's like, no. Watch this duel. It's actually way funnier than that. So my opponent ashes the Tatsu, and I could cross out, but I'm like, I'm more concerned about them having Maxi. Like, I'm way concerned about that. So I was like, okay, I'm just not going to do that. I have the triple tack here. I'm just going to look at my opponent's hand, rip a card out of it, and guess what? It was Snake Eyes. Owned. So out comes the original Sinful Spoil. The rest of that hand is pretty much useless. I do see the Called By, and I'm like, okay, well, I have the cross out at the very least for that. Yeah, that means this Maxi is going to resolve. Fantastic. Anyway, we're going to activate the effect of our other guy. We're going to go into the Mace. Mace is then going to activate its effect to grab up the Fusion, and then we're going to go for the Fusion effect, and we are going to add... we're going to shuffle back 2 in order to go for the Twin Dragon. Twin Dragon effect is going to target itself, popping itself to grab up the Combined Creation as well as Anduich. Anduich is here basically entirely just for follow-up. So we're going to pop a card here, and we're going to grab the Bone Party. We're going to activate the Bone Party in order to pop our Combined Creation to go for the Goblin. Goblin effect is going to activate. We're going to pop 2, and we are going to send to the graveyard Gactic, as well as I send Darkblade here. I think this is a bit of a mistake. I think I should have sent the Anduich. I was originally going to, and then I think I just misclicked. Anyway, Gactic is going to special summon itself, and we're going to activate its effect in order to grab back the Bone Party. And then we are going to go and shuffle back 5 of my cards, and... we get to bring out Combined Creation. Or no. Yeah, I couldn't have grabbed the Anduich there. Doesn't really matter all that much. And then I just make SP Little Knight. Because why not? And then I set 2 and pass, and I hope and I pray. Now, to be fair, I know my opponent's hand is not exactly that strong, and out comes the Called By. Cool, we're going to cross out here. Cool. Now I know Maxi is going to resolve. Fantastic. Now, here's the thing. I could just fire the Maxi here and entirely stop their turn. However, if I do that, I have to top deck well, and this deck does not do that. It top decks horribly. Like 99% of your deck, or 99% of the time I should say, you are going to draw the wrong card for your top deck. So just stick with me here, okay? My opponent goes for the Oak Interlink Karibo, and I'm like, cool, I know you don't have anything. There's no shot you have anything. I'm keeping this Maxi. Even on the normal summon of the Oak, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna keep the Maxi. And I was right. And here's the thing. I can now actually do something. So we're gonna go and normal summon the Maxi, and then we're gonna go into the Elf here. We're gonna activate the effect of the Elf to grab back the Gactic. Gactic will then add back to my hand the Combined Creation, which gives me the ability to go for the Bone Party. Remember, we added that back, so now we can do this. We can go for the Dark Blade, activate the effect of the Dark Blade, activate it to pop itself in order to go for the Ange-Witch. Ange-Witch is then going to add to the hand at the Tatsu, and then I realize, right, I can't do this because this card is terrible. Anyway, so I can't special summon the Tatsu. So out comes the Gactic once again, and I'm just going to go to the battle phase here. We're also going to walk over with Elf, and then just set one and pass. And I know what you're thinking, why did we pop to go for the Gactic? And that is because it didn't really matter. Why not? I'm going to go for the SP Little Knight here. My opponent is then going to put into the graveyard the Jet Synchron, and I'm like, cool, what in the world could you possibly do from here? And I think I'm just kind of like wondering what opponent is thinking here. So they're gonna pitch a card. They're gonna go for the Jet Synchron into SP Little Knight. And I'm like, oh wow, SP Little Knight. So they're gonna attempt to banish my Ange-Witch, and I'm like, oh, that's rude. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna Super Poly here because it's funny, and for no other reason. Imagine playing Snake Eyes and losing to Memento. I didn't even max see them. Like I triple attack, baby. Let's go. They drew probably one of the worst hands I've ever seen. So, you know, pretty par for the course for me, to be honest. Anyway, we're going to go back into the Gactic with the Elf. Elf is insane, by the way. We're going to go for the Dark Blade, activate the effect of the Dark Blade, just popping my own monster because I can. And, yeah, I was kind of stunned at that point. But, yeah, the deck's good, trust. Okay, now that I showed you me beating Snake Eyes, I want to show you the actual full combo. So this is just literally against more or less a bot. They have 0 in their extra. This is just a bot. So we start off here with the Prosby, and we have Bone Party, which is kind of funny. But we draw the Dark Blade, fantastic, so we're going to start off with that. Now, notably, Bone Party and the Fusion can allow you to dodge like targeted interactions, like Imperms or Effect Veilers. But for the most part, that's just not going to happen. Because there's no way you're going to draw both of those and your opponent's going to draw the interaction. It's just so rare. But yeah, technically speaking, that does happen. Anyway, we go for the Ange-Witch. We grab up the Tatsu, which I mentioned in the deck profile. We're going to go for the Tatsu. We're going to activate the effect. We're going to send to the graveyard all three, the Gactic, the Goblin, and the Mace. Anyway, Gactic is going to activate its effect. We're going to add it back the Dark Blade, and then we're going to activate the Ange-Witch, targeting the Mace, popping the Ange-Witch, or the other thing. I should have popped the Ange-Witch because keeping the 2 is a little bit more valuable, but it doesn't really matter too much. Mace is going to pop itself in order to go for the Fusion. We're going to shuffle back 2. I shuffle back the Gactic here because it's very nice to have access to it off of the Tatsu consistently, as well as any other Memento effect. So there you go. We're going to go for the Fusion. Fusion is going to pop itself, grab the Combined Creation as well as the Horned Dragon, and then it's going to special summon Goblin. Goblin will then pop itself, sending the 2 traps, and we will special summon the Horned Dragon. At this point, we can activate the Bone Party, popping our Combined Creation in order to go for the we just special the Tatsu because it is a name that we can pop for the Fusion that is not something that we already had. So that's what we did there, and then we grab the Field Spell off of the Fusion. We're going to then link off into IP Masquerena, and then activate the effect of, special summon out our Combined Creation by shuffling back all of our monsters, except for the Ange-Witch. We want to keep the Ange-Witch for a very particular reason, and we're going to set whatever we have, as well as setting off of the Field Spell our Cranium. Coolio. So my opponent goes for the normal summon Lesser Dragon. As I mentioned, this is not the important part. What is important is my opponent activates a card effect, which allows me to special summon the Ange-Witch, grabbing up Mace. Fantastic. Great. Now they're going to activate another thing, and I'm like, cool, that's fine. at this point, we can mace, steal their monster, which is pretty cool. We can then also use that monster with the IP Masquerena. We could go into SB Little Knight. We can go into... I actually go into Elf here because it's funnier. It's actually, like, just a better play. Because then if they were to have another monster, we'd be able to bring back the IP Masquerena, which is pretty cool. Anyway, at this point, the game is over. I could have also flipped up Cranium, forcing them to attack into me, but it's not really that big of a deal. The game is won. That was just more so to show you what it is that you kind of want to end on, at least consistently. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, I have played more games, like, I've played a lot of games with this deck at this point, and, yeah, I can safely say this deck is terrible. The one game that I had against an actual opponent, where I didn't just hand rip them, was against Vanquish Soul. And I got thoroughly smoked. Like, it was not close. So, you know, there's that. What I will say about this deck is that while it's not the worst thing that we've gotten, I think it is most certainly overhyped, which is saying something, because, like, no one is talking about this deck. But I have seen people be like, nah, this deck's really powerful. Nah, this deck's really strong. And it's like, no, if you go first, you can kind of do whatever you want. And honestly, it does have a lot of space to play, like, non-engine, but it's also just kind of extremely reliant on that non-engine. Its main combo doesn't really do anything to actually hinder any deck in like, it kind of hinders decks. It hinders, like, very specific interactions. But, you know, not really. When your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, like, I guess it kind of hurts Snake Eyes a little here or there. There's, like, a few things here or there that, like, it hinders, but not really. Because there are so many ways to stop this from hitting the field. There's so many other ways of, like, preventing this from happening. And the thing is, like, 99% of the time when I played this deck, my opponent didn't interact with me. They just didn't activate a card. Which makes it look way better than it actually is. Because the thing is, if I got Impermed, if I got Ashed, if I got Veilered, if I got Maxeed, if I got Nibiru'd, if I got if, like, my opponent did anything to me, I just kind of folded. There was nothing I could do. Like, I just stared at them and went, okay. And then hoped that I had follow-up for the following turn, which I probably didn't. Or hoped that, like, I was able to at least survive long enough to, like, make a comeback. Which, again, I probably didn't. So, anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I don't like this deck. That's it. That's the point I'm trying to make. I think it is fine, but I'm not a big fan of decks that just like to spin their wheels, which is basically what this deck does. Sure, if it goes uninterrupted, it looks great. You know, you gotta end on in Apo and a bunch of hand traps, you know, which is not terrible. That's what, like, Zodiac is, you know, it's just Trident and a bunch of hand traps, which is not, like, terrible, but acting as if this deck is anything better than that is copium. I think in theory there's combo lines where you can end with, like, Elf and SP and, you know, the combined creation. I don't know what you're doing with that. I don't know how you're doing that or getting enough bodies onto your field in order to do that. I guess it requires, like, Bone Party in particular, which means that you can't play around hand traps, and you're specifically playing around, you're just kind of, like, hoping your opponent doesn't have anything. So, like, yeah, in theory, you could do stuff like that. Don't like that. That seems silly. But, anyway, to each their own. Again, if you enjoy a deck like this, if you enjoy popping cards, just play Unchained. It does the same thing, but actually gets advantage instead of just spinning its wheels. It actually, like, goes somewhere. So there's that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, I like us very much, so appreciate it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.